like to welcome you to GH 125, the Human Body in Health and Disease, the online version. I am going to attempt to speak slowly, and I apologize if my rate of speech sometimes increases, but I am actually recording this separately for my online students. There are multiple in-class lectures that will be available on Camtasia. I do notice as I review those that I'm speaking quite quickly, and as you don't get to see my body language in addition to my verbal language, I felt it would be most helpful for my online students to have you hear me directly and me concentrate on trying to accentuate important parts that you won't have the benefit of having the in-class nonverbals. So, my name is Dawn Zuidgeest-Craft, and I am a nurse practitioner. I started to teach for Grand Rapids Community College in 2006. I have had other teaching appointments at both Hope College, Calvin College, Ferris State University, amongst others in my teaching career. And I've just recently decided to attempt to put this course online, and this is 2013 winter, and in the hopes that our students will have options for learning in addition to in classroom, we would have then an online experience. This particular course, as you see in the announcements, and hopefully by this point you have reviewed your syllabus, you have reviewed your course schedule, and maybe some of the other materials that are listed, that you can see that there's a lot of data. For those of you who have never had medical terminology, you may find that the language of anatomy and physiology is somewhat difficult to comprehend. And if you're finding that the language is your barrier, you might find that you struggle more than the student who either has worked in a clinical setting where that Latin-based language is used regularly, or for the student who's already had medical terminology, they may find this course a little less challenging. In addition, those of you who maybe had a high school class in either biology or chemistry or any of the basic human sciences may also find the material a little bit easier to comprehend. If you take your text, use it as the initial exposure to the material by reading the chapters prior to even listening to these recordings, you might find that your comprehension will be increased. In the online materials, there are multiple ways of reviewing the information as well as to test yourself, and you shouldn't in any time feel that you're lacking potential options for learning. The text also comes with a companion CD. On that CD there are animations, some of which I will refer to during our lecture time, as well as a coloring book for the student to identify the anatomic parts of the human body and then to test self as to whether or not you not only know where they are, what they are, but how to spell them, because the coloring book indeed will only place you as a correct answer if you've spelled them correctly. So let's get started. Firstly, the human body is such a complex and amazing machine, and as you all know, you have times where the human body maintains its health in a good way, and other times where those of you, many of you, are going to be going on for your LPN or maybe even your RN or other health related field. Many times our human bodies are complicated with the disease process. When we look at the human body, we talk about the body in terms of its anatomy and physiology. We look at it grossly, and that doesn't mean that it's gross, although for some you might find it that way. But we look at the large scale of the human body. When I have a patient and I'm going to do their examination, the first thing that I will do is I will look at them in general. I will see the way that they're walking, the way that they have their body posture. I will look at their gross anatomy. Then I would become more and more finite. I will start to look at their systems. And as we learn about the body in the nursing program, in the medical programs, we learn about the body systemically. When we do our physical examinations, we look at them from head to toe. We start with the neurologic system and we do a full neurologic exam. We look at their respiratory system. We look at their integumentary system, which includes their skin, their hair, their nails. And we'll talk more about the different systems and what's in each one of those systems, not only in this particular introduction, but throughout the course. Sometimes we have to look at the microscopic anatomy of the human body to find out whether or not it's behaving properly. For example, we may have a patient come in who is extremely tired and we're not quite sure why. So we might have to look at their blood smear. We will look at that microscopically and look at the type of red cells, the shape of the red cells, whether or not they're able to be large enough in number and of high enough quality to be able to provide oxygen carrying capacity to all of the tissues in the body. If there are less than optimum numbers, well, that patient might be anemic. And I can't confirm anemia by looking at and examining. I can suspect it, but I need the microscopic examination of their blood smear to tell me that indeed their disease process is anemia, and even more specifically, the type of anemia can be determined based on microscopic exam. When we look at the human organism, we want to know how it's doing in terms of day-to-day metabolism. Is that human organism able to take in nutrient, process nutrient and oxygen, and maintain cells and build new cells, or not? We will look at the anabolic, or the building up process of new cells, and we will look at the catabolic, or the breaking down of the human cell. Right now, as you're listening to this recording, you are anabolizing and catabolizing. You're probably anabolizing a little bit more if you provided some raw energy source, such as your breakfast or your dinner, whatever time you're listening to this, to be able to rebuild new cells that have currently died off. All humans, all mammals, all animals need to maintain a level of homeostasis. It's a balance. And one example of homeostatic regulation is our temperature regulation. Not unlike your thermostat in your home, we have a preset temperature, about 98.6 or 37.5 degrees Celsius is our basic human temperature, where we kind of function best at. All of our metabolic pathways, all of our chemical reactions do best in a homeostatic temperature state. In your brain, you have an area of the brain in the region of the hypothalamus that actually regulates. That's where your thermostat is located. And it aids in the regulation of your temperature. So if you go outside and it's cold, of course this is winter of 2013 that I'm recording this, and so you might step outside, and if you're not adequately covered, you will feel very chilled. Your body's response to that chilled feeling will that you will increase your heart rate, you will start to increase metabolism to try to provide more energy to the vital organs to maintain homeostasis. If you're hot in the summertime, you go outside and your body registers that heat, and to compensate for that heat and to cool you down, you will sweat. Again, your heart rate will initially go up. You will start to breathe more quickly, and you will try to help some of that additional heat to exit the body to maintain a core temperature, once again in that narrow range where we function best. The other area of homeostasis that's essential for the human is in fluid balance. When you are thirsty, there's a thirst center in your brain that triggers multiple different hormones, which we're going to talk about towards the end of the course, that will initiate you to seek fluid, to take care of what is now being a message to your cognitive brain that to maintain fluid balance you need to take in more water or fluids. Our kidneys and our lungs are actually essential in maintaining our pH and fluid balance. The kidney especially regulates how much we excrete of total water or how much we retain of total water. The kidney is worked on by multiple hormones, as I mentioned, which when we get to the renal system, we'll get into great detail explaining how certain hormones like antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone aid in fluid balance for our bodies. The body is organized in different ways so that we can kind of find it as if it was being mapped out. So for example, if you were going to look at a map and find out where Grand Rapids was, it would have a reference point of being somewhere south of Cadillac and somewhere north of South Bend. And when we look at the human body, it's not unlike that in the sense that we have reference points of our body organization and identified cavities in which we can find certain organs that are parts of different systems. The dorsal cavity of the body includes the brain as well as the spinal column. In your text there are some pretty decent pictorials also that define what parts are in what different cavities, and it's your responsibility to review those along with also the online materials. Review these quite well. The thoracic cavity, you can see, is that part of the structure that is encased in the ribs. And in the thoracic cavity, we have actually two parts. We have that which is lateral, and that's where we find our lungs. And then we have a central portion of the thoracic cavity, another cavity within that cavity called the mediastinum. Do review those pictures both on your online materials as well as in your text. The abdominopelvic cavity is all those parts below the diaphragm and to the pelvic floor. So within the abdominopelvic cavity, we have multiple organs included in this particular pictorial. We find that we have the liver. What is not shown well is also the spleen, the large and small intestine, and the pelvic portion of the abdominopelvic cavity is where we will find in the female the uterus. And retro to that of the cavity, that is the abdominopelvic cavity, we also in the upper portion posteriorly will actually find the kidneys. And when we get to renal, I'll re-explain the concept of retroperitoneal. Peritoneum is a lining of this abdominopelvic cavity. And behind that lining, although below the diaphragm, we will also find our kidneys, both a right and a left kidney. Now we also have different functions for our different systems, and some of these you may be familiar with, others of those you may have to review. The skeletal system is essential. It's part of our connective tissue, and it's actually essential for structure, protection, production of red cells and white cells, because in the marrow of the skeletal system we actually produce our blood circulating cells. It's also a storage site for inorganic salts, which include calcium and phosphorus. So those are some of the functions of our skeletal system. The muscular system is that system that's essential for body movement, and it's also a system that requires a tremendous amount of oxygen and is responsible in the utilization of that oxygen to actually be producing a high amount of our body temperature as it burns that energy to make those muscles move. We have different types of muscle cells, and we'll be talking about that when we get to different tissue types. We have both cardiac, skeletal, and smooth muscle. So muscular system. The cardiovascular system, as we get into that particular unit, we're going to describe that as the systems of transportation, because of the fact that not only do we have a pump, which is essential to move the product that's in the vascular beds, but we also have a lymphatic system that also aids in moving fluids to the vascular beds, and they're all part of the systems of transportation. Cardio, most of you are familiar with because we refer to the word cardio as heart, and vascular are all the vessels coming from the heart, the large ones, to the smaller and smaller ones, which include the arteries, the veins, the arterioles, the venules. And when we get to that particular unit, you will find that you will be learning not only the types of vessels, but where they're located and their names. The digestive system has many parts to it, from the mouth to the anus. And when we get to this particular unit, our previous and current students usually have a pretty good time learning much more than they probably ever thought they were going to want to know about the digestive tract. But truly, from mouth to anus, and then accessory organs that aid in digestion and anabolism and catabolism of the nutrients that we ingest for maintenance and homeostasis and growth. Some of those organs include the liver, the pancreas, both of which contribute other chemical product that aid in the digestive process. The small intestine, the large intestine, the stomach. The small and large intestine includes different portions of both of those, which again, when we get to digestion, we're going to learn about in greater detail. The respiratory system, really from nair or nose and or mouth to the terminal portion of the respiratory tract, which includes a very microscopic air sac called an alveolus or alveoli. And respiration is the taking in of life-sustaining oxygen and the removal of waste product in the form of carbon dioxide. Now we respire both in a large way as we take the product in from our environment to the lung, but also on a microscopic cellular way. We're going to be learning about cellular respiration, where each and every cell has to take that oxygen that's been carried to it via those blood cells and being able to take in oxygen into the cells and then releasing their waste products, which again are going to be carried by your red cells and then exhaled out of the lung. So the respiratory system. The integumentary system includes your hair, your nails, and your skin. And this unit is usually a fun unit also because many of us are concerned about our skin. We would like to keep it looking good and functioning well. And really, it has a large function in protecting the rest of our body from invaders. An intact skin and mucous membrane prevents us from taking in microbes that would otherwise injure us, besides giving us a certain type of appearance. And we're going to talk about the different detailed parts of your hair, of your nails, and of the different layers of the skin. The urinary system, as mentioned before, is essential for the homeostasis of fluid balance. It's also an area, the kidney, that houses a certain hormone called erythropoietin. That particular hormone is essential in the turning on of the bone marrow to make more red cells. So we have a lot of relationships between certain systems that enable us to maintain our homeostasis. So that's the urinary system. And we'll talk about the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, the urethra, and the maintenance of balance via the different hormones that influence the kidney to either retain water or to excrete it. Our nervous system is a complex system, as there are billions of interconnections, electrical connections. It's an electrical system. It's a chemical system. It is dependent upon neurotransmitters that maintain us from minute to minute to minute. And it is that center that controls all other body parts. And our neurologic system includes the brain, the spinal cord, which are the central portion of the nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system, which we're also going to learn in great detail about the different feedback systems from our periphery back to the brain, and from the brain back to the periphery to keep us functioning in a normal way. The lymphatic system is accessory to our venous system, and it's also the site that maintains our immune factors. So it is essential for our immunity, as well as the removal of excessive fluids from our tissue and interstitial spaces. So that is the lymphatic system, part of our system of transportation. The endocrine system is one that is essential for interrelationships from one part of our body to the other. There are hormones, which you'll be learning about, and especially in your small groups, because you will be signing up for different glands of the endocrine system. And endo, by the way, means it secretes those substances directly into the bloodstream. And part of our course, we have the students actually present the different glands that are involved in our endocrine system, including such glands as the thyroid, the parathyroids, the pancreas, the ovaries, the testes, the pituitary, both the anterior and posterior pituitary, the adrenal glands, and more, all of which are sites for the production of hormones that maintain our homeostasis. Our reproductive system includes, in the male, those gross anatomic parts, as well as the microscopic anatomic parts that contribute to the gamete from the male in the form of sperm, and in the female, from the ovary to the fallopian tube to the uterus, transferring that gamete, especially once fertilized in the fallopian tube, to be able to reproduce the human organism. You will find this particular link might be one particular link that you might want to use for quizzing yourself. Also, all of your online materials and your supplemental online reviews will do likewise for reviewing the different organ systems and what they're responsible for. Next, take a partner, which means another human in your household, or at least some pictorials, and you want to start to look at reference points of body parts. So for example, if I were to ask you what was the most superior portion of your body, hopefully you would point somewhere to the top of your cranium. If I were to say to you, what would be the most inferior portion of your left arm, you would point to your middle finger, because it's inferior to the core of your body, or the central portion of your body. When we look at both ventral or anterior versus dorsal or posterior portions of their body, again in reference, what would be ventral to, in terms of maybe, for example, from kidney to pancreas, which one is more ventral, which one is more dorsal, which one is more anterior, and which one is more posterior. As you read through your text, some of the definitions of these terms, again, it's really in reference to another point of reference. A crown. The crown, I think many of us think of the crown as that which they put upon somebody like Princess Diana. But we also think about the crown as that very most upper portion, or the decorative topper portion of your tooth. So those of you who have ever had to have a root canal and a crown, you're pretty familiar with the word crown means. The root, for example, of that same tooth would be the most inferior portion of that structure, that which is actually embedded into either the mandible or the maxilla of the mouth. When we talk about medial, we make that in reference to lateral. Medial is midline, lateral is towards the outside. Proximal is closest to, distal is furthest away. You'll also want to look at your text for the different abdominal quadrants. We have a point in your careers, especially those of you going into nursing. We're going to ask you to identify the vowel sounds, for example, on a patient in the different 4 quadrants: right upper, left upper, right lower, left lower. And we should start getting a reference point as you look at your text, look at the organs that's set underneath. So if I were to say to you right now, what quadrant will you find your liver in? You should be able to take your hand and place it in your right upper abdomen, right below your rib cage. If I were to ask you where is your spleen, you should be able to take your hand and put it in the left upper quadrant. That's where you'll find your spleen. If I were to say to you, where do you think you might find your gastric bubble or your stomach? Hopefully it would be right below the xiphoid or medial portion of your abdominal cavity. So do play with these names. This is a point where the more you can play with these words and kind of jumble them up and make reference points, the better it's going to be for when you finally get to those assessment classes, because not only do we have to be able to identify organs, organ structures in these regions, but when you go to actually chart in the nursing or medical field, you have to actually chart so somebody else can read those words and understand that you say to the chart, you say, well, you know, this patient came in and they had pain rated 8 out of 10 in the right upper quadrant of their abdomen, especially upon depalpation. You're going to know that, well, they may have some liver tenderness or gallbladder tenderness or something in that region. So that's why it's very important that you learn these terms. The metric system, by this point in your life, in the GH125, going into the potential nursing or some other medical field, is something that you should have had in its basic form in high school. So it is yours to review. I don't actually go over the metric system in this particular course, but you are responsible to know some of the terms such as kilograms, milligrams, liters, milliliters, and more. At this point, I'm going to stop this recording and I will pick it back up with chemistry in the human body on recording number 2 for Module 1, Unit 1. It's great to have you in the online class, and I hope that we can continue open communication in our discussion boards so that you're able to ask any questions that might arise. Please refer to your syllabus for how to email your faculty, as well as feel open to use the Anatomy and Physiology Cafe discussion board for asking some open questions.